Good afternoon. My name is Dawn Campbell. I'm a volunteer of the management team of the International Authority for Professional Coaching and Mentoring. And I'm very pleased to welcome Gerard O'Donovan with us. And we're going to dive straight in, Gerard, if I may, because I've got lots of questions to ask you. But the first thing is I just wanted to check in with you. How are you doing with that big, hairy, audacious goal that I remember you saying when we first met about 15 years ago? To touch 1 million people's lives?
Well, hello, Dawn. Good afternoon. Yes, it's a work in progress, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And as the years have gone by, some have been better than others. And I haven't been able to keep track very accurately on how many people we've touched. It's quite a difficult thing to do. But it's up in the tens and tens of thousands at the moment, but still quite a way to go to hit 1 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're still building your global empire.
We are, and I've sort of drifted away from being paranoid about keeping track of the numbers, and just focused on, as Emerson said many years ago, do the thing and you shall have power. So I just focus on doing the thing every day as much as I can, and I let the numbers take care of themselves.
Yeah. And of course there's the ripple effect, because there's the whole extended family touching other people's lives, and it's because of you in the first place. So there's no way you could actually keep track of the number.
No, it's difficult.
So, would you just describe for us, Gerard, your journey from where you started out? I know that you were a military man, but how on earth did you end up becoming a coach and running one of Europe's largest and most successful coach training companies?
Well, it was never planned.
Okay.
And it was never, back then, it was never even in my thought process at all to be involved in the world of personal development, and certainly not coaching. I left the Marines, and I had been accepted to join the police force, and I had a 3-month gap, and not wanting to be idle, I joined an insurance company in the south of England, a place called Poole in Dorset. And I just wanted to earn some money for a few months while I was waiting for my training course. And I really enjoyed it. And I really liked the insurance industry, even though I found it difficult. I was on commission only and cold calling and everything that sits behind that, all the anguish. But I liked it. And I liked being an entrepreneur, and I liked being self-employed and being in charge of creating my own income each month, or as in many cases in the first year, not creating any income at all. And the struggles that go with that. So I decided to stay and do that. And I built up quite a large insurance business over many years. I sold it to Cornhill Insurance in early '93. And what I had loved about the insurance world was not actually insurance. I had very little taste for the product, as it were. I liked working with people and helping them to build and grow and develop, and developing management and leadership teams around the UK. So when I sold it, I decided to go into personal development. And it was just me working from home, running short courses on attitude, power of the mind, goal achievement, building belief, presentation skills. And then I had paid to have a stand, an exhibition stand at Earl's Court many years ago, a big personal development show. And there was an American lady doing a talk. She was called Laura Berman Fortgang, and she was a coach. And I went in and listened to her talk at Earl's Court.
Yes.
And I thought, and that was in 1995. And I thought, my goodness, this coaching thing, which I'd never really heard of before, to be honest, I thought, that's it. That is the one that really resonates. So that was the beginning. And I set about finding training courses. There was nothing in Europe. I had to train with some American people, a lovely guy called Thomas Leonard, who one of the fathers of coaching. I did a course with Laura Berman Fortgang. I did a course with a lady called Cheryl Richardson. And it took about a year and 2 months, did my training and did 3 courses, and then started to coach back here in the UK, 96. So that was the beginning.
Okay, that's really interesting. All these years, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So how did you make the transition then from coach to a business owner, which is, you know, much, much bigger than having a solo practice? So you
Sure.
became a fully fledged entrepreneur.
Well, for 3 years, 96 to 99, all I did was coach, just me as an individual, reaching out to the marketplace, getting my own personal clients, practicing and learning coaching and putting it into force every day, learning how to market, learning how to deal with clients. So I did that literally every day for 3 years. Some good times, some difficult times financially, as you can imagine. You know, as a personal coach, your income is up and down, sometimes quite a bit down. And then I've managed to get the hang of it and to become relatively experienced and to a little degree successful in being able to reach out and get clients and then work with them and help them achieve success. And it was in 1999, 3 years later, that I started to train coaches.
Okay.
And it started really slowly. Again, just me, my wife helped me put together the initial training programs. And I started to train coaches, part of it face-to-face in classrooms, some of it over Skype and by webinar. Webinar wasn't hugely developed very well in those days. So we used to do teleclasses.
Yes, yeah. Okay. So what about the luck factor then? Because a lot of people say, oh, you know, it's luck that makes the difference between you and what you've achieved and somebody else who aspires to what you've achieved. You've said there's been ups and downs, but how important is the luck factor, do you think, Gerard?
That's a great question. I actually think there is an element of luck out there. I really do. And because we all know stories of people who've tried and the universe has not smiled on them. But I think that luck and perseverance go very much hand in hand. And I think there is no luck without discipline and perseverance. So I think you have to work really hard. You have to be focused on what you want. And this may sound weird, but I do think that the universe tests us all and puts obstacles and barriers in our way. And when we manage to break through those, and you know, they don't break us, we break through them, then I think at that point the universe almost smiles on us and puts luck in our way. Now that's not a very good, not a very articulate way of explaining it, but so what I'm saying is, I think there is luck, but it is absolutely linked with our focus, our vision, our hard work, and our perseverance and discipline.
Yeah. So in a way, we make our own luck.
I think we do, to a great extent.
Yeah. So how would you describe your first big break, Gerard?
Well, I suppose when I went from running the course, in the early days, that I made absolutely no money from doing the coach training. And I got my pricing completely wrong, and I marketed it to the world at a price that was below what it cost me to deliver. And that was a bit of a shock. So I was having to do my own coaching all day, every day, at the same time as recruiting students, at the same time as then delivering all the teleclasses, marking all the written work, doing all the face-to-face training, and it became quite a bit of overwhelm.
Yes.
And the first bit of success I had was when I took on my very first full-time assistant, and she came and worked in my home. And she was incredible. Her name was Terry, and I'll never forget it. And she helped to free me up and see the power of working with a small team or any team, and how it's not all down to you and me. And it's down to all of us. And that was a real eye-opener, and it freed up a lot of my time. She did a lot of the admin, the customer care, the student support, setting up teleclasses, recording them for me when I would do them. And it took a lot of weight off my shoulders.
Okay, so Terry was quite a catalyst then, from changing your vision to a solo person to a real entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Quite a leap of faith as well, wasn't it, to take on somebody at that stage?
It was, and she was just magnificent. And she was with me for many, many years, and then she and her husband moved to America, and we still keep in touch today. But then I took on another administrative person. Then we moved out into a small little office in the town, out of my home, more like a big cupboard, really. And then I took on someone to help me with marketing.
Yes.
And then I reached out into the coaching world and took on one or two people to help me with the delivery of the actual training, and started to build the beginnings of what became an international faculty years later.
I think that's quite an important point, Gerard, because I remember working for a lady who said one of the great things about being a leader is that you recognize your strengths and you hire giants around you. And so what you've just said is one person can't do it all, so you outsource.
Yes.
Either what you're not good at or what you need help with. And that's what a lot of coaches and mentors and solo entrepreneurs have problems with. They're not making enough money, so they can't take on people, and they can't take on people, so they don't grow. And it does demand that leap of faith in yourself and acting as if almost, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does. And you and I have spoken over the years, and you will now know that I am just, I speak with the voice of a converted zealot when I talk about building teams. And one of the big mistakes that a solo entrepreneur makes time and time again is they say, I cannot afford to take on someone to help me. And yet, when you do take on someone to help you, and you have to train them, it takes a few weeks to train them, but my goodness, they will repay themselves or for themselves many, many, many times over. And it frees up your time to do what you are good at. And
what you love and are passionate about.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and I'm sure, having been through your course, there'll be hundreds of thousands of people who say, the reason why they went on your course, Gerard, is because they bought you. You know, it's the charismatic you on the stage that people aspire to. I can do that as well. And you're not free to do that if you're doing invoices and marketing and blogging, etc. So it is a big leap of faith, but I think that is a very valuable nugget that you've just shared with everybody. You've got to do it.
And the important thing is today, unlike when I did this and I took on full-time people working in my office on a salary and bonuses, today we are blessed. We have this outsourced economy, shall we call it that. And you can now take on incredibly gifted, talented people from all around the world who work from home mainly, but are very motivated to work with you, doing the things that you don't wish or want, are capable of doing, and they do it very well at a very, very reasonable rate.
Yeah, I mean, that just wasn't available to you back then, was it? But it is now.
Not at all. So today, coaches starting off are blessed in many ways that we weren't before. Plus, of course, there's an awareness in the world about coaching that there wasn't 20 years ago. Yeah.
But you also had the advantage as well, Gerard, because it meant that you were a pioneer and you weren't in that sort of lost in the sea of sameness that many coaches are now. You could really stand out from the crowd.
You could, but that brought its own challenges, because I would say to people, I'm a coach, and they would say, which football team? Or they would say, how much is a single ticket from London to Manchester? And does your coach have toilets on? So, and then I would have to get into this what I found in the early days, quite difficult conversation. Well, no, I'm a life coach. Let me explain what that means. And then I would come up with the resistance. What do I need that for? I can talk to my friends around my kitchen table if I need any guidance. So yes, it was pioneering, but we were chipping away at a mountain that, and having to educate people in an area that they didn't even know existed.
Yes.
And convince them to spend money on a service that many of them were hesitant and skeptical about.
Yeah, because it's not tangible. They don't get the results until afterwards.
Yeah. Whereas now you go on YouTube, and Eric Schmidt, the head of Google, last year did a wonderful short video saying every person in the world should have a coach. And then he said every manager in the world should have a coach. So we have all of this now confirmation around us. It's on reality TV shows, it's on soap operas. The presidents of the world have life coaches and talk about it. So we no longer have to convince people. It's there.
Yeah, I mean, coaches are part of somebody's dream team. Anybody who aspires to be successful, they're going to have a supervisor, a mentor, a coach, just like they've got a housekeeper, a hairdresser, a personal trainer, or whatever. It's perfectly normal these days, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So describe what you do on a day-to-day basis, Gerard, if you would, because for years you've been convincing me that you're retiring and that you're a virtual CEO, but you seem as busy as ever to me.
I know, and I'm glad my wife isn't in the room, because this is a conversation that we've had so many times. I remember when I was 40, she said, can I remind you that you told me you were going to retire when you were 40? And then I said, no, it'll be 45. And then I said, no, it'll be 50. And now I'm 59. And I have no desire whatsoever, because I thoroughly love what I do. But to get back to your question, what do I do? Although I'm sitting in my office now, I'm rarely here. I'm away perhaps 2 to mainly 3 weeks of every month. So my office is my laptop and my headset and whatever hotel room I tend to be in. And although that may sound a bit strange, at this moment I love it, because I spend my time traveling the world, meeting our teams, our people, our partners, our students, our coaches, so many of whom have become now great friends. And I call myself a virtual CEO because I haven't quite successfully managed it yet, but I'm 90% there. But I've managed to sort of delegate about 90% of everything I do, so that it frees me up to just do what I like to do.
Okay, so that sounds like a perfect job spec. You now do the things that you love.
Yes.
But it is still a massive part of your working life, isn't it? Rather than it diminishing as you're coming to retirement age, it's actually still a very big role, but it is just all the things that you love.
It is. And I mean, the good news is, God forbid, if I drop dead tomorrow, nothing would happen to the company, because we have now brought in managing directors who run all the different divisions. We have development teams, marketing teams, finance teams. So actually, I am, in a word, surplus to requirements, which is what my plan was 4 years ago, to make myself completely surplus to requirements, so that everything happens without me, and then I can spend my time building relationships. And that's what I like to do: build relationships with our students, our coaches, our teams all around the world. And what I would like to do is then extend and expand that to many other countries.
And I know you're a motorbike enthusiast. So how often do you actually manage to travel on your motorbike and combine those two loves that you have?
Okay. The plan, the cunning plan, is that once a year, I will go away on my bike for about a month on my own. Now, I've managed it about 7 out of the last 8 or 9 years. So last year I didn't, it was just so busy, but next year I will. And I go away on my own. I've been down through Spain into Morocco, down into the Sahara, Mauritania. I've done Ukraine, Bosnia, Kosovo, Albania, done that a couple of times. And so it's sort of off the beaten track, really. And I like that. And what I love about motorbiking is two things. One, it's very meditative. I know that sounds strange, but when you're in a motor car, there's always noise. You put the radio on, you play music, you almost can't help yourself. Or there's a passenger and you're talking to them. On a bike, you're left with your own thoughts constantly for hours on end. And there is no music, there is no one to talk to. It's also very, I call it elemental. You can feel the elements, you feel the wind in your face, you feel the rain. Whereas in a car, it doesn't matter what the weather is outside, you are in an air-conditioned little bubble. You are divorced from the elements. So biking is elemental, it's meditative, and you have your own wits to rely on, nothing else.
How many hours does it take for the real meditation to kick in and for the thoughts to stop and for you to notice, actually, I'm really involved and noticing the inner me now?
About 10 days.
Really?
Take 10 days on the bike, whatever journey I'm on, about 10 days of riding, wherever I'm going, and then everything just changes. You're feeling, I don't want to be crude here, but your bottom doesn't get numb anymore. You don't get tired. You're in the flow of it, you know?
Yeah. I wonder if that's got something to do with, because I do Vipassana and we have 10-day silent retreat. So I wonder if the 10 days is the optimal type of thing. We have 10 days silence, and it takes that time really for you to de-stress, decompress, and stop thinking.
It pretty much does, yeah.
Okay.
And to forget, because the first few days, you're still thinking about your business, your work, your family, your children, what's happening at home. And it takes time to just de-stress out of that.
Yeah. I've always thought that's why a 2-week holiday isn't long enough for people. They really need to have 3 weeks for their main holiday because of that 10-day period.
Yeah. And 1 week definitely is not enough. And I read something in Fortune or Time magazine last year that a 1 week holiday can even add to people's stress because they're thinking about work the whole time they're away and their stress level builds. And then they come back to a mountain of stuff that has built up in their absence. So,
yeah, you've got to feel sorry for the Americans with only 2 weeks holiday a year.
Yeah. Although I still take my little laptop with me and I still keep on top of things, but I'm quite rigorous as to how much time I will allow myself when I am on my bike trip.
So what would be your definition of success now, Gerard, now that you're older and wiser?
Just being happy and contented at what you do. Having peace of mind. It's not about stuff. It never has been about stuff. It's not about money. Although people do need a certain amount of money to just cover the basics in life. But as Brian Tracy would say, enough is enough.
Yeah.
It's about peace of mind. And that's to do with the ego, because the ego is always forcing us. And the ego constantly makes us compare, which is a dangerous thing to do. Compare ourselves with other people and what they do and what they have and so on. And that's a destructive thing to do.
Yeah, I can relate to that, Joe, because as you know, I spend 5-6 months of the year in my motorhome traveling. And it's really made me aware in the last 5 or 6 years since I've been doing this, that actually when we go back to our big 16th century farmhouse, it's full of stuff that I haven't missed. I haven't thought I want that pair of shoes or those earrings or that CD or that book or anything. It literally makes me realize it's just all stuff.
Yeah.
In the motorhome, I have all I need to survive. And I don't know whether it's age that does it to you, but you begin to realize the sunshine and feeling content and going straight to sleep at night. Those are the things that make you feel incredibly wealthy.
And eating well.
And eating well and walking. And of course, the sunshine makes us have outdoor living. So, you know, we're outdoors walking every day. You eat less because you don't have such a big appetite. You're not comfort eating, etc. And this to me is real success, that I've arrived and I can do this. And like you, you can do 90% of, you know, your traveling, and that feeds the things that interest you, the travel, the meeting people, touching people's lives, etc. I kind of think those key words about stuff are wasted on the young, though, because it's all about accumulation as you're growing. It's about measuring yourself and having that benchmark as how well you're doing against somebody else.
But of course, it's difficult, as you say, to tell the younger people that, because they're in a place in their lives when they don't really want to hear that. Many of them equate success with accumulation.
Yes.
And it's only when you get perhaps a tiny little bit wiser and older that you realize that that's not the thing at all. And you and I, the Germans have an old saying, and I can't do a German accent, but it says, you know, too quick old, too late smart.
Yes.
Because you and I have something else in common as well, which I'm a big advocate of, and that's, I guess, without preaching, I would call it a healthy lifestyle. In terms of food, nutrition, exercise. You know, you are what you do.
You are what you eat, or as we say, you are what you assimilate.
Yes. Yeah.
So when you reflect back then on your business success, what do you wish you had known then that you know now that would have made the difference?
The importance of relying on and trusting your teams and your people.
Okay.
Trusting them to do the right thing and not having to micromanage and demand that it's done your way, because you and I and everyone has our own idea of how we would like things to build and grow and happen, but yet other people can achieve similar goals by doing things in a different way, by having a different approach, a different method. And I think it's wrong to only insist on it being your way or my way. So trusting your people, trusting in their creativity, and giving them the freedom to go and achieve it.
Yeah. And that, again, is another massive leap of faith, because a lot of entrepreneurs would probably admit they're control freaks.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody said, it's not always about doing something better, it's about doing something different. It doesn't mean your way is the only way. And I think if you can relinquish some of that control and let people do things, it might not be as good as you wanted, but it's still done. So again, like Charles Handy and Brian Tracy said, enough is enough. Just doesn't have to be perfect, I think, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And you
I
can
know from mentoring hundreds of your students around the world, particularly in countries like Romania, they are real perfectionists. And that puts a huge amount of stress on them. And that's ego. As soon as we can take the permission not to be perfect, then I think our better self comes out. Our more authentic self.
It's like a good example of that with the perfectionist when someone is getting ready to launch their business. And I have known so many people, not just in coaching, in all spheres, who have been getting ready to launch their business for years.
Yes.
And they say, well, I have to have the most perfect website, the most perfect Facebook. I need to set up the most perfect business cards, letterheads, online presence. And of course, it's never quite right. So there's always another reason to delay it another week. And my advice is just get it going and
do it.
Perfect it on the way.
Yes. Yeah.
Just get it. Actually, the important thing about building a business is start.
Yes. Yeah. Everything's a work in progress, isn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you haven't got 95% of what you think you should have. Start with what little you have. And build from there.
Yeah. Okay. So where is the global coaching market going, Gerard? Because I've always kidded you about you're not going to be happy until you've got world domination. So tell us a little bit about NobleManhattan coaching and what is the global market looking like for you, please?
Okay. Well, the global market, I am so pleased to say, is growing, and it's growing very, very quickly.
Mm.
A couple of big companies, Sherpa Consulting and PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, they do an annual review of coaching. Big survey. They produce a wonderful report. And for the last 5 years, it's been showing not just a little upward trend, but a very steep upward trend at the way coaching is growing all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even in countries like Kazakhstan, believe it or not, in Almaty, and the big oil companies are flying in coaches from England and America. So coaching is growing very quickly. It has been embraced by the very large multinationals, pretty much all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's now flowing down into the large nationals, and that flows out into the community because the companies tend to have the money. So coaching is growing. Individual personal coaching is growing. There are now over 54 different specific coaching niches.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could be a health coach, wealth coach, relationship coach, career coach, goal coach, wedding coach, divorce coach, sex coach, confidence coach. The list just goes on and keeps going. Although most of that's marketing. I need to just, you don't need to do a different training course for every one of those. So the world of coaching is growing. The awareness of coaching worldwide is growing. The figures to support the effectiveness of coaching is growing. And that's driving the people who then embrace it. So that's the market. And we see that carrying on for the next 15 to 20 years in an upward slope. Our company, we have students in about 30 countries. We opened our latest country on the 30th of November. We launched into Zagreb in Croatia. So we now have representation there. That's our 31st country. So, but there are 195 countries in the world. So we actually have quite a way to go.
Yes. And is there still a massive appetite for British coaches?
Oh, absolutely. And the very sad fact about this is one of the huge growth areas of coaching is middle management, senior management, top executives wanting to work with a coach. So I'll just call that executive coaching. Business owners, the SME, small to medium enterprise market, and they have both the money and the desire to work with coaches. And yet, 80% of people who train to be a coach have a fear within them about approaching, I'll call it the business market. They're happy to talk to people about personal coaching, life coaching, individual coaching, but they have this reticence, this anxiety. They think that executives are strange beasts that will eat them. So one of the biggest growth areas is in the business executive world, and it's the part that most coaches are not marketing themselves to. So actually, there is huge opportunity for growth for coaches in those type of areas and others.
Okay. And are you still personally coaching, Gerard?
I am. I don't have many. I have about 5 full-time or ongoing regular clients at the moment. I don't particularly want many more than that.
No.
That suits me fine. And I'm in the lucky position that, you know, I can afford to say, no, thank you, which many years ago I couldn't have possibly afforded to have done. But yes, I do have my own, but not that many.
Okay. All right. So if somebody wanted to train as a coach, and I kind of think life coach is almost a bit of a niche market now because everybody is something else.
Yes.
There's very few life coaches anymore. But if somebody wanted to train in life coaching, why would they pick NobleManhattan? What are the USPs for you as opposed to another training provider, please?
Okay, well, obviously I'm biased, but
sure,
there's 2 or 3 reasons, really.
Yes.
One is we have a very global outlook. So we are able to put our students in touch with thousands of other coaches from over 30 countries worldwide and give them a really global community to be part of. Second, our course is one of the most in-depth, I believe, on the market, with over 350 hours of total training and studying and delivery. The average course is about 200 hours, so we're 350. We allow people to come back again and again and again free of charge. We carry on supporting them completely free of charge for the rest of their life after they've trained. But I guess if I had to encapsulate it in like a sentence, I would say that we care more for them than any other coach training company in the world.
Well, for me, having taken some of your courses, the number one point that you made about it being a global business is really important for me. I didn't think about it at the time, but over the years, I have networked with several fellow students, and we've run workshops in Turkey, Hungary, Spain, France, etc. And as I've got older, I've realized I don't actually want to work on my own. It's more fun, it's half the work, etc., etc., if I create little joint ventures with people I have things in common with. So that's been a really valuable benefit for me, just staying in touch with the larger family.
Yes, indeed. And in fact, I came back 2 weeks ago from Tenerife, and we had one of our international training programs, and we had 75 people attending 4 different courses happening in the same week, at the same hotel, but 4 big different training rooms. But we all had breakfast together, lunch together, evening meal together. Yeah. And there were people from America, Singapore, Turkey, Canada, Ireland, UK. There were about 14 or 15 countries, 75 people. And the friendships that were created will last, for some people, decades.
Yes, yeah. What about the American market? I mean, that's quite unique. How are you finding breaking into America, Gerard?
Yes, we opened an office in Richmond, Virginia, about a year ago, and it's doing rather well. And we're finding every market is different. Where we're getting a lot of, if I use the word traction, is working in the middle to senior management market. So talking with organizations and companies, and they are putting a lot of their managers onto some of our courses.
Okay.
And we're finding that we're getting more middle and senior managers than, I guess, in other markets like the UK, the bulk of our students are individuals who are paying for themselves. Counselors, therapists, market management consultants, corporate trainers, and the like.
So they're not necessarily going to become life coaches because they're employed. It's about giving better communication skills to do their existing job.
Yeah, and it's different in every country. In Poland, it's about 60% managers and 40% individuals. In the UK, it's 70% individuals, 40% managers. In America, at the moment, it's 70% managers. And every country is a little bit different.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've just got a couple of questions because obviously as a virtual CEO, I appreciate your time is very precious. Dead or alive, whose brains would you most like to pick?
Elon Musk.
Oh, and why?
Oh, although I've never met him, I have the hugest respect for him, and he has visions that are so far beyond the common man, shall I put that. He's not scared to have a most audacious goal. I mean, not just big, but bigger than big. And I think that's wonderful.
Okay. So you're on a desert island. What book and piece of music would you take and why?
Piece of music, I would probably take one of the classics, Mozart or Chopin. They stimulate, there's so much study now to show that they stimulate thinking and learning and growth. And I love those. Literature, something like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Because although I've read it so many times, it's one of these books that I can come back to again and again. And each time I have a little epiphany moment.
And your luxury item?
Probably something like a smartphone, but not for the phone, for the music. So I can listen to an equivalent of an iPod or a new smartphone that I can listen to my recorded music.
In the absolute best quality.
In the good quality, yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure to meet you as always. where will people go to find out about you, your company, and the work that you do and how they can benefit?
Oh, I guess our website would be the best. It's noble-manhattan.com.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much, Gerard, and enjoy your next travels.
Thank you, Dawn. It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.